indigenous peoples.
Las Naciones Unidas están silenciando a los pueblos indígenas.
As many in civil society felt marginalized and iced out, there were those inside the UN summit who also were expressing their deep concern, like the head of the delegation of Tuvalu, the small Pacific island nation that, among like many small nations, are on the front lines of global disruption. This is Enele Sopoaga, Tuvalu's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs, speaking at the main UN plenary in Cancun.
Mr. President, last year we went to Copenhagen with high expectations that the international community would take decisive steps to address one of, if not the most serious threats to humanity, climate change. We were extremely disappointed with the outcome of Copenhagen. It is a tragedy to think that over 110 heads of state could not unite to tackle climate change in a meaningful way. In Copenhagen, we rejected the Cancún Accord, and we continue to do so. In our view, it is a hollow agreement to meet short-term political needs. Certainly, it is a document for the demise of nations like mine. Tuvalu was keen to see a meaningful outcome in Copenhagen, that though small and limited in our capacity as a delegation as we are, but as a contribution we drafted our own version of a new protocol on climate change. Tragically, however, we were never able to have this proposal discussed. This year we have come to Mexico with renewed expectations that the international community will not repeat Copenhagen. We must unite in strong solidarity and be decisive on meaningful steps to address climate change here. Tuvalu seeks a clear mandate to continue the Kyoto Protocol and a new mandate to create a legally binding agreement to implement the Bali Action Plan. We must agree to an immediate start of the second commitment period of Kyoto Protocol. The two-track processes must result in two legally binding agreements. It is fundamental that the international community agrees to a comprehensive approach to addressing climate change. And this can only be done by revitalizing the Kyoto Protocol and creating a new protocol for those countries not included in the Kyoto. Mr. President, Tuvalu's call for urgent, decisive and comprehensive actions on climate change is not self-serving. Undoubtedly, we are the most vulnerable country to the impacts of climate change. The greatest width of land on Funafuti, our capital island, is 600 meters. The highest point is only 4 meters. When a cyclone hits, there are no mountains to climb, no inland to run to. Of course, we have coconut trees. We are extremely exposed to ravages of climate change. We see that many other countries are claiming that they are also the most vulnerable. Of course, while clearly acknowledging that all countries are vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, a small island, coral atoll nation like Tuvalu faces enormous threats that could threaten the entire future of our nation. This was resoundingly echoed in the UNFCCC Executive Secretary's statement to this House yesterday. Is there any other country able to make this tragic claim? I think not. Clearly addressing climate change, especially providing adaptation funding and support, is fundamental to the survival of island nations like Tuvalu. It is certainly a necessity, a security necessity for Tuvalu. As an LDC, moreover, the entire economy of our nation is threatened by severe weather events. Yet we have no means to rebuild our economy after such events. We desperately need an international mechanism to address loss and damage, to create the necessary financial arrangement to ensure our future. We have already heard in this very hall references to the GAP report, recently released by UNEP, identifying actions required to bridge the gap between the totally inadequate emission reduction pledges made in Copenhagen and the actions needed to ensure global temperature does not exceed 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. My delegation strongly urges parties to seriously take into account the GAP report findings and its recommendations in their negotiations. The gaps identified, if not urgently filled, could well lead to my nation, Tuvalu, and many like us to disappear. Mr. President, I must emphasize the importance of urgency. We cannot continue to stall our discussions. We cannot afford to have endless meetings and endless reasons for not doing anything. Most importantly, we cannot afford to be held hostage by countries finger-pointing on climate change, particularly those who caused climate change. And we cannot afford to be held hostage by the political backwardness of one developed country. This is life and death, survival issue for Tuvalu. It is now time to act, time to agree, time to move forward, time to save Tuvalu and the world. Thank you, Mr. President.
That was Enele Sopoaga, Tuvalu's Deputy Prime Minister. And we end today's show with the voices of two children planting trees outside the UN climate change talks. They're with the youth-led group Plant for the Planet.
My name is Alessa Medidis. I'm 10 years old, and I'm with the campaign Plant for the Planet. And today we're planting trees with Plant for the Planet from 1 to 3 o'clock.
Why are you planting trees?
Because we want a better future, and we want the CO2 to reduce and help it by planting trees.
Where are you from?
Well, I was born here. I'm from Cancun.
And how did you get involved with the Climate Summit?
Because one day Felix came to our school and invited us, and we were really interested in this campaign. We thought it was really good because in that moment we just heard that our planet was not really in good care, so we wanted to do something about it.
I'm Felix. I'm from Bavaria in Germany, and we children are planting 1 million trees in each country of the world. In Germany, we've already planted 1 million trees, and there are children in over 90 countries participating, fighting for their future in their countries.
How old are you, Felix?
I'm 13.
And what is the name of your organization?
The organization is called Plant for the Planet.
Did you start it?
Yes.
How did you start this organization, and how old were you when you started it?
When I was 9, in 4th grade, I was supposed to give a presentation about the climate crisis in my class. And I prepared this presentation on the weekend, like every other class presentation. And on the website I found out about Wangari Maathai, the woman in Africa who planted 30 million trees. And at the presentation I spontaneously said, let's plant 1 million trees in each country of the world. So we started a project 2 months later and planted the first tree.
And how many up to now?
I don't exactly know in total, but in Germany we've got 1 million planted, and there are many more worldwide.
So it looks like there's a lot of guys with coily little earpieces in their ears, which means a president is coming. Which president?
Well, I think it's president from Ecuador. He's coming here to plant a tree and...
Stop talking, start planting.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Felix and Alessa are part of plantfortheplanet.org. We will link to their website at democracynow.org. That does it for today's broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Shrufo Dokudus, Aaron Mate, Angeli Kamet, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, and Robbie Karen. Mike DeFilippo, Miguel Noguera, our engineers. Special thanks to Becca Staley, Julie Crosby, Dennis Moynihan, Nick Gilla, Hugh Grand, Jessel Noor, Vesta Godars, and John Randolph, Kieran Krug-Meadows, Ra Campeni, and Kellan Innocent. You can go to our website at democracynow.org to see all of our coverage of Climate Countdown, as we've just returned from the week in Cancun, the most comprehensive coverage of any news organization broadcasting globally. That's democracynow.org. You can also follow us there on Twitter, as well go to our Facebook page. And we're looking for music videos. You can send them to facebook.com/democracynow. And we have job openings, full-time producers and part-time on-air graphics. Just go to our website at democracynow.org or send your resume to job@democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.